Everybody, it's your car's finest, the chocolate ice cream dream, the backcourt bandit, Sugar Dunkerton, letting you know that you are locked in to Beyond Ringside. Shoot, shoot, shoot. Do not turn that dial.
"19 minutes before the top of the hour on the live version. If you're catching us on replay, thank you. And I hope it's a good time wherever you are and what time zone you might be in right now. Welcome back to Beyond Ringside Live on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network and ProWrestlingRadio.net. Mark Bowman stepped away for a little while. We'll be rejoining us a little bit later in the show. Yours truly live from Studio 1, the Magic City Motor Mouth, Fast Steady Layne, or what's left of him after this weekend. That's all I'm going to say. Like to welcome in first, returning friend of the family, part of the Scenic City organization, Scott Hensley. Scott, welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
And making his first foray going beyond ringside, so to speak, also part of the Scenic City organization, Dylan Hales. Dylan, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on, Eddie.
Definitely a pleasure. Dylan, I'm going to come to you first about this one. And everybody knows our franchise question. It's normally the way I lead off an interview because everybody has their own different take on it, whether they've been in and around it for 10 minutes, 5 years, 10 years, 2 decades, whatever. But it's always about the moment. And this is about two of them for you. The moment you first really became a fan of professional wrestling. And the second one is when that little bell went off over your head, or the light bulb, whichever it may be, or kind of like my text notifications just went off just now. It wasn't a little bulb over my head that made you realize you really have to be a part of this industry.
Okay, so those are good questions. The first is actually sort of a convoluted way to answer it. I'll try to keep it as brief as possible, but the reality is I don't remember a time in my life when I wasn't a professional wrestling fan. That's not some sort of, stock answer, just like a talking point. That's just the truth. Some of my first memories in life are watching TV and messing around with the UHF dial when I was 5 years old to see if I could find Mid-South, because I had an idea that it came on Saturday afternoon in Charleston, South Carolina, where I lived at the time. As long as I can remember, I've been a wrestling fan. I guess you could say the first moment, the moment that I sort of always identify as the moment that took me from being a fan that was obsessed as a child to knowing that I would be a lifelong fan, was probably being in the building when, Terry Funk tied a plastic bag around Ric Flair's head in Columbia, South Carolina in 1989 during their infamous feud, which to my mind is probably still one of the handful of best feuds to ever occur on a national television, wrestling television promotion. So that would be sort of the moment that I identify as the lasting, okay, I know I'm going to be a fan for life moment. And I was probably about maybe 8 years old when that happened. As to the second question, I sort of stumbled into becoming involved in the wrestling business, and I think Scott will vouch for me on this. The first year with the Scenic City Invitational event, I interviewed him as a journalist, as a wrestling journalist who wanted to know about the show that was happening in my hometown, which I did not live in at the time. I'm from Chattanooga originally. I was born here, but I at the time was still living in Charleston, South Carolina. And I contacted Scott wanting to know the details, and we started talking, and then it really was a slow process. And over the course of really, I would say, 2 years, I went from, sort of for lack of a better way of putting it, a confidant or somebody that occasionally, Scott Hensley or Josh Massey would run something by me and say, what do you think of this? To being a guy who was just part of the team. It was a sort of slow, gradual evolution. I've been doing some other things. I've been involved in podcasting and tape trading and that sort of aspect of wrestling fan culture for literally my entire life, since I was about 10 years old, with the tape trading and podcasting, basically since the advent of the medium over a decade. I've been doing that sort of thing. But it was a slow process for me, and there really wasn't a singular moment. I know that sort of blows up the question a little bit, but there wasn't a singular moment. But there was a moment when I just sort of realized, okay, I'm actually involved in this now. And I guess really that moment for me would have been at the end of night one of last year's Scenic City Invitational event, when I was in the parking lot talking to several of the people that worked on the event. And they were talking to me like I was one of them, not one of the fans. And I realized, oh, I've crossed a threshold now. So that's, I guess you could say that would be my moment where I realized that I'd taken the dive.
Now, making the foray into Scenic City, has this, I mean, how has your eyes, how has your vision been, A, possibly improved, B, what has been the major impact as far as really getting involved in this?
Well, I mean, when because of the gradual nature of the process with me, like in a weird way, in no way am I comparing myself to like, you know, someone who was riding around in a car with veterans in the 80s or anything like that. But in a weird way, I was sort of brought in that way because I was slowly sort of, all right, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And it's not just with Scenic City. I help out with some other shows. I help out with Southern Underground Pro in Nashville. I do commentary for Nova Pro in the DC metro area. So I've sort of expanded and do some other things now, but it's been a gradual process. And because of the fact that it's been a gradual process, I guess my eyes have opened in a gradual way. And, I'm involved in everything from hawking tickets to booking the shows to promoting to helping fans find places to stay with my father for the big tournament that we do, obviously, in August. And, so I'm almost at every facet, I have some degree of involvement. Some more than others because I'm better at other things than I am at others, but I'm always trying to learn. I would say that probably, one of the things that's really changed as I've become more involved is you start to realize how little things can change a show dramatically for the better and for the worse, frankly. And as a fan, I think sometimes when you're not directly involved, you don't appreciate how some very seemingly minute thing can drastically change the quality of a show or the fan experience for other people of an event. And that's sort of something that I think, I've tried to get more in that frame of mind over the last couple of years as I've become more involved in promoting and booking and doing other things in wrestling, is to look at the bigger picture a little bit more. The other thing is I think I may have been more critical in some ways before I got involved. I think some people actually get more critical when they get involved. I think I've gotten less critical in the sense that I really try, and this is one thing I've learned from Scott, to be honest, I try to find the best aspect of any given situation or any given talent that I'm working with at an event. I want to find what their best things are rather than going, oh boy, I don't like how this was done, or I don't like how that was done. I think your job when you're on a promotional team is to find the best things that you can extract from a talent or from a situation and push them forward. And that's something that I've really tried to focus on.
Now, this was one that I want to get both of you in on, because with different companies having different philosophies and their approach to the talent that is a part of the show, this past August was my first SCI event. Glad I finally got a chance to come down there. I mean, it's not like we're going 30 years deep or anything like that, but still, you always get that feeling. It's like you've missed a moment if you miss something like this because of the fallout. And by fallout, I mean all of the positive comments that have been made about a live event. In the time that SCI has been around, I've not heard negative word one. And that just makes it that much more. I got to check this out. It's time to go. And this is why I appreciate all of the hospitality from all of y'all when this past at the SCI event, for myself and the Beyond Ringside family making it up there. And we're going to correct one little thing on this live event coming up, but we're going to bring that back up in a minute. As it pertains, now, Dylan, you said you've worked some in Virginia with Nova Pro. And, of course, being around the southeastern U.S. And, Scott, I know you've been primarily around southeastern U.S., right?
Yes.
And for me as well. I mean, I've made a couple of forays in a non-working capacity to different areas to catch shows. But when you see the diversity of the talent that you are bringing in for a Scenic City live event, how do you achieve that cultural balance? And is there a point where you sit back and go, I hope these guys are as over with the fans as they are with us? Dylan, I'll go to you first.
There's a lot of thought that goes into that last question. I think Scott will back me up on that one too. When you're booking or promoting an event, to me, I want to have a justification for everybody that's on the card. And that goes for including referees, by the way. That's not even just,
Thank you.
I want a justification for everybody that's on the show that I can point to and say, this is where this person might sell more tickets, or this is where this person fits into a narrative that we have that makes sense. Or this is a role we don't have on a show. Maybe we don't have a high flyer. Let's go find a high flyer. Maybe we don't have a big man. Let's go find a big man. These are the sort of things that I think all of us that are involved in the Scenic City team really do try to find. But you are right. It's a tough balance. Sometimes you send guys out there and you don't know. I mean, this year, Kurt Stallion, I think for me is a perfect example. Kurt Stallion's a friend of mine, to be perfectly open and candid, but I was worried when we sent him out for the first night. I was thinking, man, I hope he gets the response that I think he can, and I hope he connects with these crowds in the way that I've seen him connect at places like Glory Pro in St. Louis, for example. And fortunately, that wasn't a problem. Kurt got over very, very well. He delivered in a big-time fashion, I feel. But there is always, at least for me, a little bit of nervousness because to the moment somebody walks through the curtain, you aren't entirely sure. But that's why I think having a team where it's myself and Scott and Josh Massey and even some other people that we ask advice, I think that's where having that team is better than if it's just one person, because we each can sort of feed. None of us are afraid to tell the other person, I think you're wrong about this. And that can be really, really beneficial when you're trying to pull all these disparate elements together to form a cohesive show in a distinctly Southern setting.
Scott, your take.
I think we have we try to look at just the diversity of the field. We have a really diverse crowd because we have so many local fans that are just there because it is an event to support their school, but then we also have all of these traveling fans that are coming in, and so we have we have Josh Massey thinking about the sort of the technical side of this guy matches up well with this guy because they work this style and they can do this in the match and have a really good match by working this style. And then Dylan, I think he really has a good eye for up and coming talent. I think he is like the voice of the traveling fans almost. He has his finger on the pulse and he knows what people are willing to travel for. And then I guess my side of it is sort of figuring out the business side of it sometimes, of figuring out, do we have enough left in the budget to do this, or how can I work with the school to make this happen? I sort of have some input on the other side as well. But I definitely think that just the diversity of, it's not like all of us are, old wrestlers or, we have varying levels of experience. I've worked on shows for, 10 years now as a ring announcer and hype man and whatever's needed. And I think Dylan actually has said that he had a background in promoting like some punk rock type stuff. And Josh Massey has promoted off and on for actually 10 years. He's done some fundraiser type shows, but we want to reach a lot of different people. So we want to make it sort of like the circus. With different things, each match sort of has a little something different to offer.
Right.
So when we bring in guys, we don't want all names. We don't want all local guys. We don't want all heavyweights, all cruiserweights. Like Dylan was saying, we want to mix it up so that we have a little something for everybody.
And I'm going to sit back and say hats off to the trio of you, so to speak, for being able to put together something like that, because when you start talking about Georgia wrestling, Tennessee wrestling, Alabama wrestling, not always can be said for Florida, but we have to put Louisiana and Mississippi in that, the core of the Southeast. You have a mindset for people who don't live in the southeastern U.S. Like I said, ruling out Florida, it's Southern by location, not by blood. They're adopted. To all my friends down in Florida, you know what I mean. You have managed to build, from what I have read and from what I have seen personally, a situation in the heart of the southeastern U.S. that doesn't feel exclusively Southern that does have that appeal, but fans of Southern wrestling feel at home there. Now, first off, once again, kudos, compliments, hats off. I know that's pretty darn difficult to do sometimes, but I'm going to take this a slightly different direction. Has there been a situation, now I know we're not dealing with situations like David Lee Roth and no brown M&Ms. Nobody's really going to be a diva, so to speak, in this particular regard, and I don't mean WWE women back from 10 years ago. But has there ever been a very unique request from anybody that you have tried to book on a show that just made you sit back and go, what? Scott, you first.
Well, the first year we did have some communication challenges where, a price was agreed upon, and then come day two, it's sort of like, well, I thought that was per day or something like that. So there were definitely some lessons to be learned there with communication. I guess it wasn't one of the tournament people. It was someone that had traveled with someone in the tournament. We did not plan on, or we did not budget for them to also be paid for 2 days. So, it's one of those things where it's just not worth fighting for, because everybody is linked together, and that goes for the entire wrestling industry. You really have to pick your battles.
Right.
It's not worth pissing off everybody over, $5 to $20 or whatever.
Right. Dylan, your side.
I would say that I don't think there's been anything that I would consider outrageous. One of the things when you're doing something like this is you have to have an idea of, are these guys going to do business? I mean, that's frankly, that has to be a consideration. Is this going to, or if we bring in wrestler X, are they going to have a problem working with wrestler Y or doing what we need to happen for the tournament to be compelling and what we have laid out on paper? And I think that by and large, we've done a pretty good job of making sure that there's not, the people we are bringing in are not the kind of people who are going to present those sorts of problems. Other shows that I have had some involvement with, I think have had some problems here and there. And I think that's just sort of the nature of the business. Certainly, as Scott mentioned before, I promoted music for over a decade. And, I saw a lot more problems there than I did with wrestling. But it does, in some ways, it has prepared me for the possibility of dealing with a potential issue like that. But fortunately, so far, at least with the Scenic City events, I've not really seen any of it.
I'm going to ask you both one of my... Go ahead.
I was going to say I would also like to add that we have a really good dynamic of good cop, bad cop, because Josh Massey is not afraid to be bad cop.
I almost got in touch with him about coming on tonight to make it the full trio for the three of you. And by the way, for the record, let me go ahead and throw this one out there. This is one of my new favorite questions. When the situation rolls around, and everybody, all of us who work behind the scenes never look for the applause, never look to take the bow, but it's going to happen eventually on social media or something like that. Now, if there was a circumstance to where you could make your own individual entrance to kick off or wrap up a show, what would be your car of choice to drive down to Ringside? Dylan.
Oh boy, Scott. Scott's going to laugh at this. I would drive a forklift because as a non-registered driver, or a non-licensed driver, I think it's the only thing I can legally drive in the state of Tennessee. But my theme music would be the Ravishing Rick Rude theme music from WCW, for whatever that's worth.
Scott.
Oh man, I have no idea. I mean, as a ring announcer, I don't want to be recognized. I might say my name in a night, I might not. So the idea of coming out to music and in a car, that's kind of weird. I guess I'd like to come out in the the little small ring-looking thing, like the guys came out to
WrestleMania 3.
in.
WrestleMania 3.
Go ahead.
No, WrestleMania 3, Pontiac Silverdome.
Absolutely, yeah. And I do not care about the music. I don't care.
Now, conspiring between the two of you, what would you make Josh drive?
Ooh, Power Wheels. Barbie Power Wheels.
Well,
I'll agree with that.
first off, for those of you just now joining us on the live side, welcome into Beyond Ringside Live. Fast Eddie Layne over here. Mark MaBo Bowman sitting out for a little while. He's got some personal stuff going on. I'm being joined by some of the driving forces behind the Scenic City Live events. And this Saturday night, November the 18th, Scenic City Trios in Hixson, Tennessee, just outside of Chattanooga. Going to take place at the Hixson High School. Now, two great events going on during the course of the day, but the main event itself for any and all wrestling fans, if you are within 3-4 hours of Hixson, the Chattanooga metro area, trust me on this one, you are going to want to be there. It's Scenic City Trios. They are going to have 4 first-round trio matchups. Now, I'm going to ask this question that I didn't ask Scott last time around, but I'm going to ask that in just a minute. But there is also a match that I do want to take a closer look at and get perspectives from both of you on this one. And it's a non-tournament matchup featuring Cyrus the Destroyer and the People's Captain, Gunnar Miller. Dylan, let me get you first on that one. Well,
I mean, to me, this is a huge match, both literally and figuratively. I think a lot of people underrate how good both of these guys are. I mean, I think in this region, people certainly have come to appreciate Gunnar Miller in a huge way over the last couple of years. Cyrus, I think, is one of the most underrated talents anywhere in the United States, and I'm somebody who travels and goes all over this country watching and being involved in independent wrestling shows. And I would put him in the absolute top tier of big men anywhere on the planet, to be candid. And that's not me trying to sell a show. That's just my honest to God belief. These two guys have wrestled each other several times. I had the chance to see him down at Georgia Premier early this year, back in February, at the No Limits event. They had a great match there. They've wrestled at Anarchy. They've wrestled elsewhere for Georgia Premier. This is a rivalry, and these are two of the biggest guys in this region. Gunnar Miller, he's not as physically big as Cyrus, but what I mean is he is a big impact player and a big impact hitter, for lack of a better way of putting it. And honestly, to me, this match alone is worth coming to the show. Like, as a feature add-on match, I don't think you're going to find much better. I've had the luxury of, calling and traveling to a few of Gunnar's matches out of the area recently. Well, up in Nashville for Southern Underground, and also we had him up at Nova Pro last month. And just to see where he is now, I mean, he's starting to travel. He's starting to get out there. If you've got an opportunity to see him in the Southeast, you need to take it while you can, because this is a guy who, as we get further along into 2018, I think he's, not to say he's not going to be wrestling down here, but he's going to be all over the place. And, I think fans, if you've got an opportunity to see this guy in person live at this level, where you can be right on top of the action ringside, now is the time to do it, because he's not going to be at this level forever. I mean, this guy has big-time potential. And Cyrus is just incredible. Totally great athlete, incredibly fast for his size, incredibly explosive. And, I'll sort of pitch to Scott myself here, Eddie, and say that the added dynamic, of course, is that their managers are going to be with them. And I'll let Scott talk about that a little bit, because I do think that changes the dynamic of this matchup.
Oh, it absolutely does. Yeah, as Dylan said, this match has been done before, but at the same time, it hasn't been done this way. I think last time I was on, I said it's like two big bears fighting, and each one of them has an evil magician in their corner. Nice. There's no telling what these guys are going to go, or the lengths that these guys are going to go to win this match. You've got a guy like Cyrus that, you know, he looks like King Kong Bundy out there, but he has the agility of like Jeff Hardy. I mean, he's doing swantons over the ropes, and you know, he's laying out on drop kicks and you know, flying off the top rope and all sorts of stuff. And then you've got a guy like Gunnar Miller, and you know, he has become Mr. Scenic City, as he has proclaimed himself, and nobody disagrees. I think that's how you really give yourself a good nickname, is when nobody disagrees. It's like, yeah, that's his nickname. But I recently heard, I guess it was Bruce Pritchard talking about evaluating talent, or maybe it was Jim Ross, but they said when you look at a guy that's sort of up and coming, can you picture him headlining WrestleMania? I actually got to see Gunnar wrestle Matt Lynch, sorry. But he wrestled Matt Lynch Friday night in Cleveland, Tennessee, on a show with Jerry the King Lawler, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. But Gunnar Miller came out, and everybody in there, their attention was focused on him. He has the professional presence. You know, you have to take Gunnar Miller seriously. And when he's in the ring with somebody like Cyrus, who also has Logan Chase on the outside, which, you know, on any given day, Cyrus can beat anybody because of his power, because of his speed, his agility, even his experience. Cyrus is not new to professional wrestling. He has just continued to get better each and every year. And I think I said online that these guys don't have a feud going on. They have a war. You know, it is two big battle tank hosses going at it. And like Dylan said, you know, just that match alone is worth coming to see. I believe we had that match picked out before we even decided what teams would be in it. It's like, well, let's give people a reason to come. And, you know, even if we can't get the teams we want for trios, you know, at least we have this big match. But then, you know, fortunately, we've been able to get, you know, a ton of just amazing teams for the trios tournament.
Yeah, let's run down these real quick, because I know, Scott, you and I went over them in depth a couple of weeks ago when you were kind enough to come on. And Dylan, I want to get your input on some of these teams, especially now. I'm going to take them in the same order, because the fourth one that you've got listed, the fourth trios match that you've got listed, is going to be one that a lot of people are going to sit back and just go, I think I need to wear a suit of armor for this one. You may just on the fourth match, we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4 on this one. So hold up, kids. Let's break it down real quick. A Case of Ducklings, the Ugly Ducklings, and Ethan Case going up against Southern Motors, the Good Old Boys, and Torque. Dylan, your thoughts on this one?
I actually think this is one of the most interesting matches that we've done at any Scenic City event ever, because it's two total fan favorite acts. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see what the fan dynamic is here. We've got a lot of fans coming out of town for this event, as we're fortunate to have for all the Scenic City shows. We also have a lot of local fans who will be coming. And the local I mean, there's very few acts in the Southeast right now that are as popular with live audiences than the Good Old Boys. One of the few acts that might rival them, however, is the Ugly Ducklings.
Yep.
And the wild card is really what role you're going to see from Ethan Case and Torque. You know, both those guys have had PWX world title matches in this year against Anthony Henry. They both came up short in those matches. But what my point is, these are top-level wrestlers, right, you know, respectively. So Torque's been a Southern States champion for GPW several times, if I'm not mistaken. Ethan Case has been all over the place. You know, he's wrestled in Evolve this year. So this is a match that has, in my view, big-time breakout potential, and I think it's going to be very fun and interesting, I think, to watch and see how the crowd responds to each of these teams when they're, you know, are they going to choose, or is it just going to be a love fest from bell to bell? I think it's going to be interesting to watch, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how the sort of antics of the Ugly Ducklings and the Good Old Boys mix, and how the wrestling acumen of Ethan Case and Torque mix.
Scott?
Yeah, I think with what Dylan's saying about them both being fan favorite teams, I think that really goes into sort of our psychology in going into this, of just putting people out there that are going to entertain and going to have good competition amongst themselves, and then sort of letting the crowd decide. Sometimes the competitors themselves get out there and decide that they're not feeling the crowd, or that they don't appreciate the response the crowd is giving them. But with these teams, I mean, it's going to be serious, but it's going to be fun. And, we really look at it as it's going to be seriously fun.
The Rat Pack, known as the Gymnasty Boys and Malachi Matthews, take on the Nightmare Mob, Joey and Matt Lynch, and the Technical Wrestling Nightmare, Kyle Matthews. Dylan?
Yeah, you talk about an unorthodox matchup. I mean, the Gymnasty Boys, I think, are, and actually an incredible unit. Timmy and White Mike, Timmy Lou Retton and White Mike are really a great tag team. I think sometimes people they look at their antics, which is a big part of what they do. It's part of their psychology. It's part of how they get inside people's heads. And they go, oh, these guys are, they're crazy. But they're also crazily, freakishly athletic. Like, you look at them and you think, these guys aren't like top-level athletes. And then you watch them and you realize they're some of the best athletes in independent wrestling, legitimately. And it's absolutely insane to watch. And Malachi Matthews right there with them. That's a long-standing trio. So here you have a true trio in the Rat Pack. These guys have worked as a three-man unit before, and that could be advantageous to them. On the other hand, you have sort of I would say the unofficial representatives of Anarchy Wrestling. I don't want to say that they're officially representing Anarchy. That's not true, but obviously the Lynch Mob have been tag team champions down there for a big chunk of this year in Cornelia. Kyle Matthews is, of course, the current Landmark Heritage champion, and he's defending that title against everybody, including some people who are also on this event, I might add.
Right.
Stylistically, these guys are all freakishly good athletes, some deceptively so, as I mentioned beforehand. Obviously, I think this is a case where the Lynch Mob and Kyle Matthews are going to be the fan favorites. They're locals to this region. They've wrestled here a long time. If Gunnar Miller is Mr. Scenic City, Joey Lynch is probably knocking on his door for that title. And that's a dynamic that is going to be interesting to watch. So I think that matchup is very, very exciting on paper, and I'm pretty much 100% positive they're going to deliver. And I would expect that to be one of the more exciting aerial contests on the show as well, because guys like Joey Lynch and Timmy Lou Retton can really fly around that ring.
Scott?
Yeah, I think this match is going to be really interesting because there's a brotherhood amongst each team. In the previous match, I mean, the case of Ducklings, I mean, those guys know each other, they're friends, they're familiar with each other, but at the same time, I just don't think it's the same as guys like Kyle Matthews and the Lynch Mob. They actually have pretty similar experience in time in the ring, but I think that Kyle Matthews was so much more advanced early on that I think there is like a mentoring relationship there. The fact that I think at times Joey Lynch and Matt Lynch were the guys that were like, can we please get in the ring with Kyle Matthews so we can get better? And then on the opposite side of that, I mean, with White Mike and Timmy Lou Retton and Malachi, I mean, those guys travel together. They really have that brotherhood. And going into the match and just imagining the things that these teams are capable of, you definitely have to think about the aerial component there. And I definitely think that, I think about the thickness of like Timmy Lou Retton and White Mike, and the fact that the Nightmare Mob is going to have an answer for that added body weight and strength that those guys have, because I think they can match them for agility, and that's it's not said very often.
Now, we make a reference to somebody being the unofficial or an unofficial representative of a company. However, in this next match, two companies are well represented. Team Glory Pro, Myron Reed, Kurt Stallion, and Gary J, taking on Team Southern Underground Pro. AJ Gray, Kevin Q, and Jaden Newman. Dylan.
Yeah, this is a fascinating matchup, and this is a tough one for me because I'm involved creatively and I do commentary for Southern Underground Pro. So obviously I got to be objective here. In my heart of hearts, there's kind of a weird rooting interest for me in this matchup. But what really makes this interesting, I think, is Southern Underground Pro and Glory Pro both started in 2017. And they are two of the fastest rising independent promotions in this country right now, in my estimation. As we record this, Southern Underground Pro, has announced tonight they're going to start airing their content on powerbomb.tv. Glory Pro, of course, is a huge, huge promotion. Michael Elgin's promotion there in the St. Louis area. And they've brought in people like Marufuji and they've got Naito coming in from New Japan next year. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, and it's just, it's incredible and really exciting that we have been able to put together two teams that are going to represent those two respective promotions. But the dynamics here are going to be fascinating. I mean, the big elephant in the room is that Kurt Stallion is the Southern Underground Pro champion, and he is on Team Glory Pro. So, I mean, that dynamic is going to be interesting to watch. Kurt Stallion also, of course, was a finalist in this year's Scenic City Invitational Tournament itself.
Yep.
So he's delivered on that big stage. He's delivered at a Scenic City event and proven that he can hang as a singles wrestler. And what is that going to change here? Because, he's had a long-time rivalry with Myron Reed, who's one of his partners. Gary J, sort of the veteran of that team. The guy's been all over the place, and an established trios wrestler in the submission squad, I might add. So he has experience in this setting that maybe the other guys don't have. Maybe that'll come into play. I think this is also a very hard-hitting team. Gary J and Kurt Stallion, two of the heaviest hands in all of pro wrestling. Myron Reed, one of the wildest flyers. Southern Underground Pro, I think, is almost the biggest wild card team in the entire field. AJ Gray, another tremendous athlete. I mean, this is a guy that can do everything. Power wrestler. He can fly. He hits as hard as anybody. Kevin Koo, up and coming, hard hitting guy. Some of the nastiest European uppercuts in pro wrestling take your head off. And then Jaden Newman, who of course is local here to the Chattanooga area, on top of being a guy who's appeared several times on Southern Underground Pro events. And I think they've got a lot to prove because they are all representatives here in the Southeast, and they're kind of defending the Southeast in some ways, you might say, from a team that's coming outside of the region. And I think it's very, very interesting interplay here. Lots of potentially personal dynamics at play on both intra-team and inter-team. So this one's going to be fascinating, and I think this one might have the potential to be the most fast-paced match on the entire show.
Scott?
I think some chests will be turned into hamburger meat, and then all six of these guys are so hungry that they may eat it. These six guys are just six of the most hungry guys in independent wrestling. They live, they eat, sleep, breathe professional wrestling. And as Dylan sort of talked about, like, these two teams are going to have to learn to become teams as the tournament goes. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if at the end of the tournament, if neither one of these teams are if they're not all not talking to each other. If they just completely dissolve within the tournament. There's that added component there of, we don't really even know if all of these guys can exist as a team, but maybe they all want it enough that they will adapt. And it's going to be so hard-hitting. It's going to be one of those matches where people that look at professional wrestling and think, oh, man, it would be fun to be a professional wrestler, they're going to look at this match and think, I don't want to do that.
You are listening to Beyond Ringside Live on this 12th day of November, 20 minutes out of the top of the hour on this Sunday night edition. Fast Eddie Layne being joined by Scott Hensley and Dylan Hales from the Scenic City organization. We're talking about the Scenic City Trios Tournament coming up on Saturday, November the 18th at Hixson High School Gym in Hixson, Tennessee. We've talked about 3 of the first round matchups in the Trios Tournament. There is one more that I will sit back and say I have commissioned an independent study to make sure that the 35-mile-an-hour side crash test rating will be upheld. I've also put a petition in play that the bottom of every seat on the floor section does have an airbag or a shield that can be used as a form of defense. Why, you might ask? Here's the reason. Jake Parnell, Alex Rudolph, Frank Wyatt, the Viking War Party going up against, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. There's no way I don't have to build this up. I don't have to sell this to anybody who is a regular listener to this show or this station or this network, because you know how far back we go with this trio, 2 of the 3 in particular. I'm talking about the Music City Mutt, Kerry Awful. I'm talking about the Down South Dandy, Nick Iggy, and I'm talking about their brother, Trip Cassidy. I'm talking about the Carnies. The Viking War Party and the Carnies next Saturday night at Scenic City Trios. Dylan?
That was a great hard sell, Eddie. Can you do ads for us?
Of course.
That was wonderful. Look, this is the match. This is a match that could have been a final. And
yeah.
I mean, to me, the conflict here when Scott and I were putting together the first round was we knew how many people wanted to see this matchup. We knew how badly these teams wanted to fight each other, which I think is really the most important aspect here. And because of how insane these guys are, all 6 of them, frankly, the only way we could ensure that this match took place on this event, because we don't know if somebody's going to get DQ'd, if they just brawl out the building and disappear for perpetuity. I mean, you don't know with these guys. The only way we could ensure that this match actually occurred on this show and give both the fans and these 6 men what they wanted was to do it in the first round. So if anybody has any questions why this is a first round matchup, there's your answer. We knew people wanted to see this. We knew that the men involved wanted this matchup badly. And it just would have felt wrong not to be able to deliver that to the fans. But, man, it is crazy to have it as that first round matchup. And, look, this is going to be a fight. I mean, these guys have a long-standing rivalry. The Viking War Party, by the way, reuniting as a trio a year to the day after they broke up at St. Louis Anarchy. A year to the day, November the 18th. How poetic is that? So if you think that's not something that they're going to have in the back of their mind, they have not wrestled as a trio unit since November the 18th of last year. And they're putting the band back together, to use Blues Brothers parlance here, for a fight with people that they have a basically sworn blood oath to destroy, the Carnies. And I think on paper, a lot of people have the Carnies pegged as the favorite to win this thing because they're an established trio and they're as wild as it gets. You know, I don't know that there's a hard and fast favorite. I've talked to fans that have told me, I think 5 or 6 different teams at this point. But I do think that for a lot of people, this is kind of a match where, in the minds of many fans, I think they will see the winner of this as the favorite. My question is, are these 2 teams going to beat each other so badly that the team they wrestle in the second round gets to pick scraps? And I think that's going to be the interesting dynamic, is how much damage these guys do to each other, regardless of who comes out on top.
Scott?
Yeah, this match is going to be absolutely chaotic. We sort of looked at it as this is going to be the Darby Allin Joey Janela match of the trios. It's a match that we felt like we just had to put together because we really just want to give the fans what they want. And there's dangers with that. I've actually honestly had other promoters ask me, are you sure you want to do that? I mean, it's a scary thing because these guys are all very, I'll say, passionately violent.
Yep.
And this is a family-friendly show, and for some reason we thought it would be a good idea to let them come and battle it out. So we'll go over some ground rules with them, but then once it hits the ring, it's sort of as we talked about the Darby Allin Joey Janela match. You know, I don't think anybody ever really whined about, why didn't they get counted out or disqualified? I don't think anybody ever really said that, but I think it was still sort of on people's minds of, how are they getting away with this? But once that match hits the ring, we respect our referees, and we respect our talent, and we respect our fans to the point that, we throw it up as sort of customer service and, I guess, referees' discretion and gentlemen's agreement. I mean, the rules are just, it's sort of open to interpretation depending on who's out there, and I know that's sort of confusing in a way, I guess, but at the same time, I mean, if you just think we're going to get what we want, then I think that summarizes it and covers it. But that gym that we are having this event in is a dome. It's not like East Hamilton where there's balconies and things to jump off of. So with it being a dome, those guys are going to be fighting all over the place, and it's going to be the loudest battle they've ever had.
I'm going to use a loose analogy on this one, keyword loose. I'm going to equate this match to the University of Alabama Mississippi State game from yesterday. It is going to be a hard-hitting smash mouth match where the team that is able to get that one big move or that one big series will end up getting the win in this match. Because you got 6 out there that don't know the word quit. You got 6 out there that don't know the word stop. So that's good. That one in and of itself, like I said, I'm going to sit back and say, I'm going to be bringing a suit of armor that I'm going to wear during this match. If you tell Kerry Awful this, I will deny it in a court of law because he will bring a blowtorch and try to burn something that doesn't need to be burned.
I think no fire will be one of the hard rules. No fire.
Now, real quick, before we hit the bottom of the hour, let me go ahead and ask. Ticket prices and availability one more time. How much are they and where can people get them? Dylan.
Okay, so tickets are $15 for floor seats. It's first come, first served floor seating. What we mean by that is if you pay $15, you are guaranteed a spot to sit on the floor, but you still need to be there early if you want to get in there in the front row. Having said that, there's not going to be a bad seat on the floor. It's just, probably about 3 rows of chairs, maybe 4. It's much smaller than the East Hamilton gym. So that it's going to be tight in there on the floor if we go too deep. But you're going to be right on top of the ring, even if you're sitting in the 3rd row. That $15 value I think is excellent for the card that we're putting on for you. $10 for general admission. That's bleacher seating. Again, this is a dome setting. I personally don't think there's going to be anything even approximating a bad seat in that building. I think it's actually an excellent venue to check out a pro wrestling show. So $15 for floor seats, $10 for bleacher seating. Tickets will be available at the door. I've got. You can contact me if you want seats, okay? You can contact me if you want seats. I say that with a little bit of hesitation because I'm just going to sell online for a couple of more days. I'll probably cut it off Tuesday morning. I might, if people contact me, a little bit early, I might hang around and work something out for local fans or for people who are coming out of town, and maybe we can work it out and I can take money after that fact. But I'm trying to get everything tied down with online sales by Tuesday morning at the latest. Having said that, if there's anybody listening to this, don't let that discourage you from reaching out to me because I'll probably make an exception. You can email me to get in touch with me with tickets, about tickets if you're interested. That's Dylan Waco, DYLANWACO @gmail.com. You can also get with me on Twitter about them. My direct messages are open at Dylan Waco, DYLANWACO. Again, $15 for floor seats, $10 for general admission. Tickets will be available at the door, but the big deal is advanced ticket buyers will get first entry. And as anybody who was there in August for the big tournament will attest, I think it really is a substantial advantage to be able to choose your seats and to get in there a little bit before the rush of the crowd. So advanced ticket buyers do get first entry, and tickets are moving. In fact, as we've recorded this, I've actually sold a few on the phone while we've been talking. So
there you go.
Please get with me.
Also, once again, for those who do not know, and I know I didn't say this when I normally do when I'm talking about the city and the state of the event, it's 5705 Middle Valley Road in Hixson, Tennessee. If you're listening and you got your pen handy, write this down. GPS, easy way to do it because nobody types as fast as I talk. Leave it alone. 5705 Middle Valley Road, Hixson, Hixson, Tennessee, zip code 37343. Mark that address down, write it down, put it in your GPS, and get your tickets and get ready for a great night of professional wrestling action. But real quick, and Scott, I'm going to come to you on this one because I want you to do the other. I want you to fill everybody in. Earlier in the day, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., there is a very special toy, comic, and card show, right?
Yes, absolutely. We have, I believe we have 8 or 9 vendors already signed up, and I do expect another couple to come through, but each vendor will probably have 2 to 3 tables, and so we're talking probably, I would guess we'll have about 20 tables because I have a lot of stuff. But we're going to have sports cards, game cards like Magic, Pokemon, comic books, toys, action figures. I'm going to have signed books, bobbleheads, all kinds of different stuff. But it is a toy, comic, and card show. There will also be a Magic card tournament with a cash prize, as well as a Pokemon tournament with a cash prize. So this is our attempt to just reach a different audience, to do a little something different, but something that we feel like has a lot of overlap with professional wrestling fans. If you've been to just about any Comic-Con in the last few years, you've noticed professional wrestling is creeping in on those,
Yep.
Or has been a huge part for several years in many instances. But there's so much overlap there, and just the appreciation of the creativity and the talent that goes into those.
Now, for those,
I was just going to say real quick, Eddie, but before I forget, I should note bell time is 7:30. Doors are 6:30. I'm always guilty of that, of forgetting that integral part of promoting a professional wrestling show. So get to the toy, comic, and card show from 9 to 2 for sure. But the bell time is 7:30 and doors are 6:30 for the event itself.
I blame myself because I forgot to ask that one this time, and Scott can vouch for the fact that I did ask it when he came on 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that's fine. And then also, if you would like a table, or a couple of tables, they're just $20 each. It does go to help the school. So you can reach out to me on Facebook or Twitter. It's Scott C. Hensley, all together. That's SCOTT CHENSLEY, Scott C. Hensley, all is one word. But then nobody's going to be turned away, but we are also asking for just a $2 admission for the people coming to join us with the celebration that will be the comic, toy, and card show.
It's going to be a great day from start to finish, and Hixson, Tennessee will not be the same after it's all said, done, and over with. And I mean that in a good way. Trust me on that one. Dylan, thank you. Scott, thank you. Gentlemen, I appreciate you taking the time to come on this evening, and I am really looking forward to seeing everybody this coming Saturday night, November the 18th, Hixson High School, Hixson, Tennessee, the Scenic City Trios Tournament. It is going to be an awesome time.
Thank you for having us on.
Yeah,
ladies.
If you see me at the event, ask me if I've eaten anything. I usually don't eat on on event days. I think last time we did an event, I think I lost 7 pounds in one day. So please remind me to eat.
Tell you what. If you haven't, I normally keep road trip snacks in the car. Yes, granted, gonna be junk food. Probably gonna be donuts. Probably gonna be chips. Probably gonna be a Big Mac. I don't know. Chips and donuts, more than likely, the Big Mac will have been destroyed by then. But I probably have something you can probably partake of.
All right, I appreciate that.
Not a problem. Ladies and gentlemen, new and good friends of the family, Dylan Hales, Scott Hensley from Scenic City have just and once again gone beyond ringside. Hang tight. Going to take a quick one. We will be back right here to wrap things up right after this. And welcome back into Beyond Ringside Live. 18 before the top of the hour on the live side. MaBo, welcome back.
If I was Josh Groban, I'd be mad at myself.
For those listening on the live side, yes, we interrupted the Mark Groban public service. Josh Groban public service. And son of a gun. We'll get that right in a week or two. Who cares? It's all imaginary anyway,
I can
right?
right now, starting next week, Beyond Ringside Live becomes a solo act with Fast City Layne.
Well, actually, we won't be on next week.
Why?
Because I'll be coming back from Scenic City, and I'm staying overnight.
Oh, well.
So, sorry, I'll be on the road. And plus, it's Survivor Series anyway, so it would be a short episode anyway. So, BR Live will be back in 2 weeks. And then it can be a solo act with Fast Eddie Layne.
Then it will be a solo act with Fast City Layne.
There you go.
Wait, no. So are we gonna broadcast Black Sunday or whatever they're gonna call it?
What's that?
I don't know. It's like Black Thursday, Black Friday, Black Saturday, Black Sunday.
Black Friday, the day
Cyber
after
Monday.
the Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, that all the places put their stuff allegedly on sale.
Allegedly, just like this show.
Office Depot has actually put out a lot of their Black Friday deals on this week's internet-based weekly ad. So it's kind of like, I'm not seeing that much stuff that's really grabbing my attention, kids. Y'all are going to have to do better than that, or I'm going to stick with the online ordering. Brick and mortar is going to suffer even more. Now,
As long as I get money to buy 2K18, I don't care.
Okay. When's it out?
WWE 2K18's been out.
That's what I thought. I thought it'd been out for about 2 weeks.
Yeah, but Black Friday, they usually put it like, well, I don't know, since they've got multiple editions this year. I don't know which one will be on sale, but usually, the regular edition's like, what, $60?
Right.
You usually snag it for about 35.
Now, I ask because I do not know. How much are you going to lose as far as DLC and your saved content when you bump from 17 to 18?
Everything, dude. Nothing transfers over.
Okay, because, see, I've just now gotten back into video gaming. And I bought the PS4 earlier in the year.
We know.
What?
Oh, God. What was it do I need a memory card?
Well, once again, the last operating system that I had was a PS2. I didn't have a 3, so I skipped an edition.
I'm telling you, kids, never did I try my hardest not to sit there and be like, yeah, Eddie, walk into GameStop and ask for a PS3 or a PS4 memory card.
Yeah, I found out I can actually use an external hard drive, and it works just as well. Now I'm trying to figure out.
But yeah, no, it's not like who used to do it, Madden?
Yeah.
Or NCAA, and you could transfer to Madden. No, it doesn't work like that. Yeah, any creator, you don't lose. Nothing transfers over. It's you start a whole brand new season, all creator wrestlers, everything.
Well, that sucks.
Not really, because I mean, if Adam Rose is not in the company, so why does he need to transfer over to 2K17 or 2K18?
Yeah. Because I would assume,
if these logos or this moveset is, an old person's moveset who's not in the game anymore, it's going to be obsolete when it comes to the new creator wrestlers. Now, why would you transfer a creator wrestler over if they've just been put in?
I'm assuming there's some stuff that you might be partial to in one particular game that you'd like to be able to bump over to the next game to see how well it does with the new characters.
Like what?
Well, if you have your own creator wrestler and you're happy with the way this one looks and acts and performs and the characteristics of it, and lo and behold, they don't give you that same option in the following year. Like I said, I don't know. A lot of the new stuff that's going on, I'm not that familiar with.
Yeah, unfortunately they've never done that with creator wrestlers.
Okay.
Ever. Like I said, just doesn't quite work like the Madden or whatever football series that was.
You know, I'm sitting back, and I'm sure you heard me talk about the channel that I found on Roku that's actually a kind of like a television tuner type deal. And this one company, this Pluto TV is what it is. We're actually showing, let me scroll back and see exactly what this is. Approaching the unknown. No, that's not it. Hold on. Damn.
What is it? Is that a projection on the future of Impact Wrestling?
No, it's actually, I'm watching that channel and they're showing the evolution of Impact all the way from where it was AJ Styles to a very young AJ Styles with the National Wrestling Alliance World Heavyweight Championship, the 10 pounds of gold, and Vince Russo.
I've always, when Russo, that first when they first started, when they were, see that whole weekly pay-per-views, because they ran that for like a year, 2 years,
2 years, because I had a
before
lot of them.
Before they picked up on Fox Sports South,
right? It was FSN, Fox Sports Network.
Yeah, because that's when I'd always heard about it, but that's when I really started watching was, and some would say that when they went to Fox Sports Network, that was the beginning of the golden era of TNA,
right?
Which a couple of years later died when Hogan took over.
Pretty much.
So, but that first 2 years or so, whenever it was weekly pay-per-views, much like the end of WCW, fascinated me because you had just some of the weirdest stuff. You had the Flying Elvises and Flying Elvi. You had the Johnsons, which ended up going on, or it might have been called, no, another one, the Dicks. The Dicks was Chad and Brad Dick. That was what Tank Tolan and somebody else became in WWE on SmackDown. But they became. Do you remember the Gemini?
Yes, very well.
The two twins that wrestled on SmackDown. They were the Johnsons that wrestled in those early years of TNA, and they wore flesh-colored suits with flesh-colored masks. You see where I'm going?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But they had Russo's group was like Sports Entertainment Extreme.
Right.
Yeah, it's just that whole first 2 years, they had, what was their big draw? Maurice Cheeks. It was just a big, guy. He was fatter than I think he was fatter than Yokozuna at his heaviest.
Oh, there you go.
To where all he could do was just, he had a dimply buttocks worse than Rikishi's, and he would just sit on people. That was fascinating. Just towards the end of WCW, when you had the Cruiserweight Tag Team Tournament, and Lance Storm's, his Team Canada had taken over and started renaming all the belts.
God, a young James Storm and
yeah, you get to see a, not really, it wasn't short hair, but it was a bob cut. He had like a Prince Valiant and no facial hair.
Yeah, actually, he had the chin strap thinner than mine.
Oh, okay, so it hadn't gone that far back yet.
No, this is early. Oh, they were doing 4 sides before the 6 sides, and Wildcat
Oh,
Chris Harris.
I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's because that was the original. Because they hadn't switched over to 6 sides yet. When Elix Skipper did his trounce across the cage and head scissor.
Right. This was when they were still
over.
up in Nashville, and matter of fact, it is Triple X.
Yep.
Elix Skipper and Chris Daniels.
Yeah, because Loki had bowed out, I think, at that point, or was still hurt.
On again, off again. But
yeah,
do me a favor. Let's go and hit it. Last call.
Oh, good, man. I can't sleep for you all of a sudden. I'm sorry, guys. Sleepy.
Sorry about that.
That's all good. Next Saturday night in Munford, Alabama,
Y'all.
I will be doing commentary once again for Southern Legacy Wrestling. Somewhere on Lions Drive. I don't have the internet, kids. I can't talk on the phone and look up stuff at the same time. So, but yes, so come out there, see me, say hello. I'll be doing commentary with my new commentary partner, the Big Ish, Eric Ishii. So, if you ever want to see two big, fat, sweaty guys with beards and ill-fitting suits, then come see us do commentary. Southern Legacy Wrestling.
And
serious.
Are you back in the realm of advertising yourself on social media again, or are you still on blackout from that?
I'm blackout drunk. What? No, I'm not Paige. Allegedly.
On that note, at Beyond Ringside on Twitter, Facebook.com/Beyond Ringside Live. The home sites are BeyondRingside.com and ProWrestlingRadio.net. And of course, don't forget, you can download the Beyond Ringside Radio app for Amazon, Android, and BlackBerry products. For those of us on Apple devices, be sure to check out the TuneIn Radio app. Thank you to everybody who caught us tonight on Ustream, as well as all the different apps and sources that are available. And of course, on the pre-recorded side of life, if you're subscribing to us through iTunes or iHeartRadio or Stitcher or Spreaker or Podomatic or all the other different ways, I think there's like 17 ways now that you can catch us on the pre-recorded side, 19 live. So, hey, it's that easy. For me personally, at Fast Eddie Layne on Twitter, follow at your own risk. My home site is FastEddieLayne.com. And here's the quick update. Next Friday night, the 17th, Buffalo Wild Wings, Alabaster, Alabama, 9 p.m. start time for Friday night karaoke. The 18th, going to be in Hixson, Tennessee, at Hixson High School for the Scenic City Trios Tournament. Beyond Ringside will be set up and either broadcasting live or doing interviews from Hixson High School before and during and possibly after the live event. From that vantage point, the 25th of November, making the return to Carrollton, Georgia for Peach State Wrestling Alliance. December 9th, Global Championship Wrestling at Good People Brewing in Birmingham, Alabama. So going to have all that up on the website. It's going to have all that up on my personal social media. Definitely check us out. Like I said, if you're in Central Alabama, Eastern Alabama, Western Georgia, check out MaBo next weekend at Southern Legacy. And a good time will be had by all. Folks, going to call it a day. Thank you to Dylan Hales and Scott Hensley from Scenic City for coming on with us this week. Always a pleasure to talk to both of them, and definitely looking forward to seeing them next Saturday night. For Mark MaBo Bowman.
That's what we call a pickle.
This is Fast Eddie Layne saying join us next time as we all go Beyond Ringside. Bye for now.